Good afternoon. My name is Justin Moyer, and I would like to take some time to talk about my cross-cultural interview that I had completed this week with my mother-in-law, Sherry Champagne. My mother-in-law was born in Toronto, Canada, um, prior to moving to the United States when she was 16. The reason for the move was her father got a job in Detroit, Michigan, as a printer, and so decided to move his family from Canada to Detroit, Michigan to pursue career opportunities here in the United States. My mother-in-law was 16 during the move. She had two sisters and a brother that are all younger than her, and she had to take care of as they um, crossed the border down to the United States to continue their lives here. Upon moving to Detroit, uh, they were all placed in schools, obviously all different schools because of their age ranges. Her mother became a medical reporter, transposed medical records and documents and things like that for the local hospital. Um, she definitely said that while there were a lot of similarities between Canadian and American culture, there were a few things that were really hard to adapt to and get used to. One of the key things was the difference in diversity amongst the school children. In Canada, she was stating that almost all of the students were white. Occasionally, she'd have a Hispanic student. But moving to Detroit, especially the inner city where she was living, there was a much more prevalent African American student body than she was used to. And the major issue she had dealing with the cultural differences, for one, was the language. While they both spoke English, and she understood most of the teachers and other students, she had a really hard time dealing with slang and understanding what kids were actually trying to say versus what she was understanding. So there was definitely a cultural barrier for her at that moment. Some other things that she noticed were quite different. Toronto, Canada is also a large city as well as Detroit, so they're very comparable. But she noticed when she moved to America there was quite a bit more crime in Detroit than she had dealt with in Canada. She had drawn myself to a statistics where that entire year that she moved, Canada had only seen about um, 6 homicides that entire year, and it was a bad time for Detroit during that year, and they almost saw um, 100 times that. It was almost 600 homicides in Detroit at that time, which just shocked me. I didn't that was just such a huge number, and um, Sherry had mentioned that most people in Canada use the public transportation system. They have a system of trolleys and buses that anybody could use, and it was fairly cheap. She said it was about 10 cents to use the trolley to go wherever you wanted around town, and her siblings would take it daily to the local parks and the pools and the ice rinks and things like that, and they were free to be out there after dark, and there was no worry about crime and crime rate and um, being kidnapped or mugged or anything like that. It was just a fact of life and something that they did all the time. Um, but when they moved to Detroit, that quickly became not an option for them. Um, Anywhere that they had to go, they had to get their parents to take them, or they had to walk, but they wouldn't be out after it got dark. So that was something that was really hard for them to adjust to and deal with. Another of the big contrasts between American and Canadian culture is the Canadians place a lot of emphasis on the retired elderly. They have great public funded um, nursing homes and retirement homes for their elderly that's free of charge to the families. And it's so good, in fact, that Sherry has chosen not to get a U.S. citizenship. Um, she has a green card and a permanent resident card, but she has not decided to go completely with the U.S. citizenship because of the great benefits to the retirement. If the economy goes really bad in America, she can always just go to Canada and have a really nice apartment in a really nice retirement community that is already paid for by the state, and with free medical care in Canada. She sees that as a good option for her if things don't go well in the United States. Other parts of the key differences between Canadian culture and American culture is obviously the much higher tax rate in Canada, but she stated that she didn't really have too much of a problem with the higher tax rate in Canada because of all the benefits that they got. The government funded really nice parks and recreation centers and healthcare, and everything was free for everybody. They subsidized the transportation system, which is why it was so cheap to go anywhere else. But she does state that she does enjoy the perks of lower taxes and capitalism in the United States, because she says things are just so much cheaper here. Cost of living is a lot cheaper. You can go to the grocery store and pretty much get anything you want at any time of the year, and it's all at a reasonable price. She does like the career opportunities that America also provides as well. The thing that she does not particularly enjoy about American culture is a growing sense of entitlement, what she said. It was, Canadians get a lot of stuff for free, there's not a sense of entitlement to those things by the majority of the Canadian culture, and she starts to see over here a growing sense of an entitlement that because we're U.S. citizens, we're entitled to these things like medical care, unemployment, things like that, and there's not a sense of working for that, and it's slowly starting to be on the decline that she's noticed. And from her Canadian roots, she said that's just not something that you saw every day. While she said not everybody in either culture is 100% like that, the overall tone of the culture is very much a desire to work for what you get, rather than stay home and collect unemployment or things like that. There's a much bigger stigmatism of being on that in Canada than there currently is in the United States, and those were some of the big cultural differences that she saw. While talking with Sherry, I didn't think that I would recognize a whole lot of cultural differences between the Americans and the Canadians, because I see our societies and the democracy angle in both countries now playing such a prevalent part. But I did notice that there is definitely some culture shock and culture change between both cultures when they get together, and that was interesting to hear firsthand from Sherry. So I appreciated her time to share that with me, and thank you for your time to listen to me share my experiences with her with you guys. Thank you. Have a good day.